At the University of Southern Indiana, we dare to soar to new athletic heights, ignite new adventures, and welcome all to our community.
An Indiana college with deep roots in Evansville, looking to grow and extend its reach beyond Southwest Indiana. The University of Southern Indiana has a new leader with a long history with the school. Meet USI President Steven Bridges on this edition of the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. And I am pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by Steven Bridges, the fifth president at the University of Southern Indiana. And President Bridges, thanks for taking the time to join us.
It is my pleasure to be here today, Gary.
When did you take the president's role? I know you were in that role on an interim basis. When did you actually take the full-time gig, if you will?
I was appointed on April the 2nd, so a little over a month now.
Brand new to the role, but certainly not new to USI in any way. You've been at the university in various capacities since the late 1980s. Again, you served as interim president here most recently, and you're the first USI graduate, right, to serve as president. What does that mean to you, I guess, personally and professionally?
Yeah, Gary, it means a lot to me, to be honest with you, to represent the over 54,000 plus alumni. Really important to me. And, you know, I'm in a unique spot in that I started with Dr. Rice, our very first president, and I keep a picture on my desk of him handing me my diploma. So it kind of reminds me of where we started and his values, and to be able to be in this position is a full circle moment for me and something that really excites me.
What experiences, or was there an experience or anything in particular? Perhaps there were many, but from your time as a student at USI that you remember in particular, what do you remember about your time on the USI campus back then? And it must have been a very different environment.
It was, but it's always been a family approach, and it's been interesting. We've had some consultants come in to help us, and they always say the same phrase, you're actually larger than you think you are, but we've managed to keep a smaller feel, and I think that's good. For me, the turning point was a video interview in our placement office at the time, where they asked me a series of questions as a student, and I answered those questions, and I had to go back in and watch the video with the director of our placement office. And she said to me, your answers resonate with what we do here at the University of Southern Indiana, and we're going to have a position open, and I think you should consider applying. It was a staff accountant position. And so I said, well, you know what? I think I'll do that. I turned a job down waiting for this interview. And in the time that conversation happened to the time I returned, her name changed, her last name. And I then realized she was actually married to our assistant vice president for business affairs at the time. Finance and administration now is what we call ourselves. So I had an in that conversation that I never knew. The connections you make that you never know are going to pay dividends. So that's the thing that sticks out most in my career, is that interview happened and she changed my life, to be quite frankly.
Wow. Very interesting. Give us, for folks who don't know, I've always looked at USI as really one of the best kept secrets in Indiana and a real powerhouse in Southwest Indiana. Talk about the university, kind of the makeup, what it's all about, student population, some of the metrics.
Sure. We're about 7,000 in terms of grad and undergrad right now. And if you add our CAP program, where students are taking classes in the high school, we're about 9,200. That's dropped a little bit, but we're working to move that up. That's going to be a big goal for me, is to bring that enrollment back up. But we're trying to not make it such a well-kept secret, but 70% of our graduates live and work in Indiana. So we drive the talent pipeline for this area, and being founded by the business community, which is why it's sweet to have this conversation today. Yeah. Leaders in the community decided we needed public higher education, and they didn't take no for an answer. And that's why I'm here today. So that's in the fabric of our institution, is being a part of the business community. And I think that serves us well.
Yeah, talk about that, because I didn't realize that, and how the university was founded, the business community connection, because I know that connection to community is to this day very important for the university. I know you take that very seriously. Talk about those early days and how the university came about.
Sure. Yeah. So the business leaders decided that we needed public higher education in southwestern Indiana. And so they began to be a force in requesting that. And honestly, there's always that concern, right? You're a disruptor, you're new to the market. Is that really going to be a positive? But they didn't take no for an answer. They bought 1,400 acres out here on the west side of Evansville and were really visionary. I mean, I stand on their shoulders today. They pushed and we became part of Indiana State University Evansville, ISUE. And then in 1985, the community decided, it would really be better if we were an independent institution on our own. So once again, the battle began and we talked about doing that with the legislature and pushed hard. And Dr. Rice was a driver in that among with the business leaders. We were told, okay, you can become independent, but you're not allowed to have, before that, not allowed to have housing before the independence in 85. Our business leaders then decided we're going to build housing on our own. So they started a separate corporation before our independence that allowed us to have housing. So our apartments all kind of look alike. We had apartments before we had resident halls, which were dorms then. And so a different approach. And then once again, when Dr. Hoops was here, who was our second president, he decided we should have engineering. And again, that was a concern among other schools, but not taking no for an answer. We went to battle for that. And today we produce engineers, which help this state as a highly manufacturing state and a lot of construction efforts. And so those are all examples of what the business community has done and rallied around us. And that's why we want to pay it back and be a solution for them when they have issues, bringing faculty that are talented to help them work through problems they have, or maybe listening to what they need from the students and what programs we might need. It's just in our fabric, to be honest with you, Gary.
Yeah. You mentioned the 1,400 acres on the west side of Evansville. It's a really pretty campus. I mean, it's an attractive campus. You have a lot of things that folks who haven't been there probably don't realize.
Yeah, I hope they come. And, for us, we don't have to tear down buildings to build buildings. So that's a little bit more economical and efficient. And I think Dr. Rice would be shocked to see what we became today. And that gives me great pride.
Yeah, lots going on at the University of Southern Indiana. As you remember back again, you've been at the university for a long time, but when you had the opportunity and were approached perhaps to serve as interim president and then were named president, is this something you've really aspired to and kind of wanted to do for a while, to lead the university?
So if I'm being really honest with you, Dr. Bennett, who was our third president, suggested maybe I should go to some of the classes for presidents, thought I had the skill set for that. And at the time, I'm more of a traditionalist. I thought, that usually should come through the provost area, the academic side. And so I told her, I'm really happy as the CFO, basically. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to Dr. Rashawn leaving, I looked around and suddenly I'm the senior member of our cabinet. And we could have brought someone in from outside, but I didn't want to lose the momentum. So Dr. Rashawn and I talked, and I said to him, I have a plan if you get this job. And I felt pretty sure he would. And he said, well, I have a plan too. It'll be interesting to see if it's the same. So he came in and said, Steve, I've gotten the position at Cal State Fullerton, and I think you should be the interim. And I said, well, that's the same plan I have. Ah. And so I started off under that scenario, preparing for the fifth president of the University of Southern Indiana. I'm going to give it my best, keep us going. And about a month into the job, I looked at it and thought, the skill sets of today are quite a bit different than they were when Dr. Bennett and I had our conversation. And I think I could do this job. And so when I interviewed the search committee, I told them, I said, look, you're really late to the game. I've been interviewing myself for 5 months. And if it's not good for USI, I've been here long enough that I care about this place, but I think I could be the right person right now. And that's how I got to where we are now.
Yeah, you mentioned the skill set of a university president these days. What are some of those skills that you really need to have to be an effective leader?
For one, I think for us, returning to our roots of focusing, Dr. Rashawn did a great job at the national level, but for me, it's the business community. It's our local community in the region. I'm on the Indiana Chamber. So I really want to double down on what we do locally and repay that with the business community. So my contacts from being a CFO, I have the skills of being connected to the business community that way. In addition, there's some challenging times with the state budget, and I grew up in that. I know the numbers. And so I think that's very important. So the business mindset right now in higher education, I think, is more critical than it's ever been. And being in this position, talking to the legislators at the state, I have a very robust knowledge of the university after 36 years. And so that's where I think that I'm a differentiator for the University of Southern Indiana. And frankly, it's in my heart. Yeah. Degrees from here. 2 of my children went here. On what's right for the University of Southern Indiana is the direction I'm heading. And I think I bring that at a high level.
Yeah, you mentioned the state budget facing some challenges. I think this most recent budget, just recently approved, gave colleges and universities in the state a 5% haircut. What will that mean at USI?
Sure. Yeah, a 5% haircut and then a 5% holdback on the money after that 5% cut, just to see how the state budget's doing. And the April forecast wasn't good, so they're not releasing that extra 5% holdback yet either. We had hoped they would. So for an institution like USI, 90.1% of our current operating budget is made up of two sources: tuition and state appropriation. So that's a tough one for us. Some of the other institutions have bigger sports programs that are bringing in revenue, bigger endowments, more research. So our revenue is not as diverse. So from our perspective, we have to be smart. We're looking at what tuition increases we would have. I know the commission came out with a 0% increase, but for an institution like USI, depending on those two sources, that's tough. So we're trying to balance affordability and quality right now. We're running some scenarios about tuition increases, looking to subsidize the budget through some other reallocations we have on campus, and still trying to keep in mind that, Hoosiers, they need to keep pace with the cost of living. And so, we're still trying to balance that factor of trying to help our employees, cost and affordability. So we're looking at a lot of internal resources, and inevitably we'll have to have a tuition increase, even though I didn't really want to do that.
Yeah. The evolution at the University of Southern Indiana has continued, certainly, and I think accelerated, you could say. Among the changes, a lot of folks very excited about it, and that's the move to Division I. You mentioned athletics. That's been a big topic there, a big move there. Is the transition complete? Are you actually officially in Division I yet, or where does that stand?
So we would be going into our fourth year this fall. But the NCAA is constantly changing. I'm sure you've been seeing that. When we first started this process, we said any way that we could do this in less than 4 years. And they said no. Well, as it came out in the spring, we can. And so we are trying to go in this year after our third year. So we hope to be ready in the fall to be fully participating in all the championships. We had to get an expedited visit and a report in. We're waiting for the results of that. So June or July 1, we will know whether or not we're full-fledged members and can compete in all the competitions. And I feel good about our site visit. I feel good about where we were. I was a part of building the 4-year plan, and we just accelerated that a bit. And that's important to us. It's raised our visibility and reputation. And honestly, when we look at enrollment and things, there's a new market that knows about us in the Ohio Valley Conference. In Tennessee, we're a lot more present. In Illinois, we're stronger than we've even been. In Arkansas, we actually have a name down there now. So those are all things that help us. And in Kentucky, also some places.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because a lot of benefits to joining Division I, among them visibility and the ability to maybe recruit to more students and that kind of thing. In this day and age, which is, I think, crazy, college athletics at the Division I level with name, image, likeness and transfer portal and all those things. For a school like USI, what do those competitive challenges, when you look at money and dollars and being competitive, let's say in the basketball program, how does that shake out?
Yeah, our women's basketball program has been highly competitive. Not as many students have been leaving and going into the portal. So we've had some great success in there, winning the OVC regular season tournament last year and the conference championship. This year we were competitive again. On the men's side, we've been turning over our student athletes a fair amount. So that's a challenge for an institution like USI. Some of the dollars that are available by other institutions are pretty great, and they will come and look for our top athletes. And so we're constantly battling that, working to create a little bit more in terms of dollars to help with that. But it is a challenge. I won't mislead you. And I hope that we'll have some guardrails. It's sort of been the wild, wild west right now. Again,
right.
Strange thing with the NCAA because it's been very static for so long. Yeah. But I think hopefully we'll have some guardrails and we'll get a chance to do that. But it is tough. Mainly men's basketball is our toughest sport for that. A lot of the other sports, baseball, softball, we're doing pretty well in those. And we've been competitive in the OVC. I think we're in the right conference. It's geographically, we're traveling less than we did in Division II because it had ended up in the Great Lakes Valley Conference where we became one of the most eastern members of the conference. Before, Bellarmine was in it, Northern Kentucky was in it, Kentucky Wesleyan. And as of late, we were traveling out to, Rockhurst in Kansas. Mm-hmm. And so really the OVC travel has not been an issue, and it's more in our geographical region, and it raised our visibility, and it also at the same time creates more of an opportunity to recruit students because Probably not as many are coming from Kansas as it may come from, part of the OVC schools.
Yeah. How confident are you? You talk about the guardrails, and university presidents everywhere talking about that, getting some sanity back into things. And there's, continues to be discussion now, I think, discussion at the national level of a commission to come in and do some things. How confident are you that the ship can kind of be righted when it comes to Division I athletics?
Yeah, I think it may look different than it looks today, but I think there'll be a change that will occur for schools like USI. How much differentiation happens between some of the power schools and the OVC, I can't really comment on that one. That's still out there and it's pretty early on. But I feel certain that there'll have to be a solution because we can't continue in the way that we have. So I'm optimistic on that.
Much more ahead with University of Southern Indiana President Steven Bridges. We'll talk about challenges, opportunities, what's next at USI. That's when the Business and Beyond podcast continues.
At PNC Bank, we're committed to making a difference in the lives of our customers and communities by helping them move forward financially. As a Main Street bank, we try to do right by our customers with every encounter. Our local teams offer personalized financial advice to help guide you in making the best decision. We're proud to be part of your community. PNC Bank. See how we can make a difference for you at pnc.com. Copyright 2022, the PNC Financial Services Group, Inc., all rights reserved.
We build Indiana. The Laborers International Union of North America builds and maintains roads, bridges, and other essential infrastructure that make us the crossroads of America. So thanks to LIUNA members' work, Hoosiers have a better quality of life, like access to utilities, easier routes to jobs, schools, or medical care, and deliveries keep moving. We build Indiana for good jobs and stronger communities. The Laborers International Union of North America. We are LIUNA.
And welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week is Steven Bridges, the fifth president at the University of Southern Indiana. And President Bridges, we touched a little bit on enrollment. That's the lifeblood of universities, in particular USI. How big would you like the university to be? A lot of challenges in higher education, the enrollment cliff, all the things that's been talked about for some time. Where do you see enrollment going? You're just under 10,000, I think, now. Where would you like to see enrollment?
Yeah, I think somewhere around 12,000, maybe 12,200 would be where we would be in a sweet spot if you count our high school agreements. If you only look at grad and undergrad, I'm looking at about 10,000. So there's a couple thousand delta there. But, we used to teach those students English 101 and they're taking them into high school. So we still count those in our total number because they're credits we actually provide to those individuals. 10 without those 12, roughly 12,200 with it in 5 years.
Yeah. What's going to be, in your view, key to hitting that number?
Yeah, I think we have to recognize there's different markets. We've broken this into some pieces. So graduate and undergraduate and transfer is one market that we're working with, segments within it. Then we have a graduate section that is also handling the international students because there's a bit of more of a challenge with some of the transcript evaluations and recruitment. And they'll handle any special populations we have. Then we're going to focus on the adult learner market. And that's a different market. That in those markets, they really want flexibility. They know what they want to do already. They're coming for a credential. So they need to know, can I still do this? And can you work around my life and work life and home life? And so that's important to us. And then we also have the high school agreement that I discussed, the CAP program that we'll be focusing on. We have a couple of charter schools we authorize. So those help get us some name recognition. One's in Springville, Indiana, up on I-69 near Crane, an area where we don't have as much presence. And then we're part of the Indiana Ag Charter School, and they're all over the state of Indiana. And so that's a good footprint for us to raise visibility and reputation, not looking for charter schools in this area. We work with the school systems in our area here. We're not competing with them with charter schools.
You mentioned Crane, and what a dynamic STEM-focused area that is in terms of what's going on there in terms of high-tech research and development and those types of things. Do you see opportunity as you have outreach to the business community? You're not very far away there, really. Is that an opportunity you see with Crane?
Yeah, actually I think it's 6 weeks ago, we signed an educational partnership agreement with them. When visited Crane, certainly we have STEM areas that they have interest in. We also have an interest in business students. and some of the chemistry type students as well would be handy. So we're working with them on that, and again, hoping to provide that talent pipeline. That's an impressive facility. Most people do not realize just what's there. I'm sure you do, but the average person does not realize what we have here in Indiana with Crane. So certainly I had that conversation. We're going to double back now that we've had a few weeks and talk a little bit about, okay, how can we operationalize what we signed today and start trying to help with that. So absolutely. I've been visiting superintendents around the area talking about, what are you hearing about USI? What do you need from USI? How are our students that you're employing? Where are we missing or where are we strong? So those are all things I've been doing. So definitely a listening tour, and Crane was on that list.
Yeah. Are there career paths you see as kind of a sweet spot for USI, be it engineering or nursing or whatever the case might be? Where do you see a real opportunity for USI?
Certainly our nursing program has a 100% pass rate. It's outstanding. If you want to be a nurse, you want to be at University of Southern Indiana. Personally speaking, and my mother had some healthcare issues and she's passed, but anytime a USI student came in as a nursing student, I always felt very confident, and I would for my own care. They're just the best of the best. So clearly that area, we'll be having some retirements. So that'll be important for us to be able to develop those students. The biggest drawback is there's some accreditation limits on that. And we want to turn out quality graduates in nursing, right? So we don't want to stuff the room with a lot of people. But at the same time, it'd be nice if we were able to expand that a little bit. We've added some extra start dates, but still looking for ways to do that. Clinical sites are a big issue because they actually have to have that hands-on training, and that's limited. That's really one of our bigger drawbacks. But clearly accounting, computer science, criminal justice, engineering, those are all strong programs for us, business administration. So we can meet that need, but I need to listen to business and find out where do you have a gap that we can fill? And that's something I think we're nimble enough to do, and something that is, again, in our culture.
Sounds like that's a real focus of yours, and that's to connect and listen to the business community and try to make that connection. It's long been a criticism of higher education in the business community. It goes back and forth, but you seem to want to put a real focus on that.
I do, and since we do applied research, I think that's so important. If we brought businesses in here and said, what is your number one challenge? And we connected them with people that could assist them. We have an applied engineering center. Some of our equipment might be a little out of date. So when in my discussions, I'm talking about, is it robotics you need? What is it you need? We're looking at creating the Center for Applied Technology in the Romaine College, which is about AI and data analytics. We think that'll make a big difference for the community. And we're creating a lab in our library on STEM that we hope will help spark students' interest in the STEM program, but also a place where teachers can come and be trained, and hopefully then they can spark that, in the K through 12 level. And I see this education process as a continuum, pre-K all the way through whatever level of education we have. So I'm excited that if the state level, we were working with the Secretary of Education, because we should work with K through 12. And that to me is really, really important for us. Some students will go with a vocational route. That happens, and that should happen. Some people are better suited for that. That's their interest. But we should be working together to improve credentials across the board between higher ed, K through 12.
Yeah. You mentioned technology, in particular artificial intelligence, which is affecting everyone these days in all industries around the country. How do you see, I read things that say artificial intelligence is going to revolutionize higher education. How do you view artificial intelligence, be it from the academic side or just the operation of the college?
Yeah, sure. We're going to have to engage it. It's going to be important, right? So during my career here, and I hate to date myself, but we didn't have the internet, and we were all like, oh, the internet is going to doom us all. Where would we be without that today? Could you plagiarize using AI? Well, yes. And we have to be on the lookout for that. But could, during my era, you plagiarize by pulling out the World Book of Encyclopedias? And people did. So we have to determine how to use that tool the best that we can. But it's here to stay. It is helpful. And we will work through that as we go through testing. We have some software that helps to be able to assist with that when we're doing virtual testing to make sure we know what's happening. So it's how you use the tool for good or for bad, but it's here to stay, and we're going to embrace it and make a difference in helping employers with what they need.
Yeah. new to the job in a little more than a month, but as you look to the future, and we've talked about a lot of different things here today, but as you look to the future and that focus here the next maybe 1 to 2 years, what do you want to get accomplished here in the early parts of your administration?
Yeah, strengthening the business connections and industry connections, expanding our regional reach, working to improve recruitment and retention. And I know this sounds kind of silly, but I'm really working on resource synchronization. As the CFO, you'd think, why wasn't he already doing that? But I have a different seat in the house. So when we sit around now and we talk about, hey, wouldn't it be great to do this? We have the development officer there saying, I have a donor that's interested in that. Hey, we've got ready money that we could apply for in a grant. Wait a minute, we could fund that internally. We should maybe request this from the state. I feel like we are so much more in sync with that. And I think that's going to be really important to continue to build that. Increasing scholarships for our students. We want to keep it affordable. So that resource synchronization is a piece that I'm also still focusing on and bringing some of my past experience forward in a new seat where I can influence some things better.
Yeah, just one follow-up too. Now we've talked about that connection to the business community, but do you feel this is kind of a tipping point potentially in Southwest Indiana with what you're doing there at the university? And then you look and see what's happening, whether it's the river vision, along the Ohio River, the connection. The business community, I think, in Evansville seems to be more connected and collaborative than any in the state, or certainly among the tops. Do you think this is a kind of a moment in time for Southwest Indiana?
I absolutely think that. I think we have got so many good things going and we're pulling in the same direction. We understand that the investments we make will pay dividends down the road. And that's exactly where we fit into that piece of the puzzle as well. I'm on the EREP committee, the executive committee, and the board committee too. So absolutely, I think we are at a tipping point. I think Southwestern Indiana is going to be a place where people are going to want to live and work.
Steven Bridges, the 5th president at the University of Southern Indiana. President Bridges, been a real treat to catch up with you. You've got a full plate down there, and I know you're going to be making a difference in a lot of ways. I look forward to following it in the months and years ahead. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. I appreciate your interest and the time today. Take care, Gary.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast. We are a weekly podcast focused on achievers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. We're presented by PNC each and every week, and you can listen to all of our episodes, more than 200 strong, and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gary Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Get ready for full throttle coverage as we shift into high gear for Business at the Brickyard, presented by LiUNA with support from the City of Westfield and Daniel's Family Vineyard and Winery. We're giving you the inside track on the powerful connection between motorsports and the Indiana economy. Join us at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for exclusive interviews, behind-the-scenes access, and the stories that drive the business of motorsports. So buckle up and join us for Emmy Award-winning Business at the Brickyard coverage all month long.